Hello, today we're going to be breaking down my first ever short film. This is a terrible idea, as it is horribly embarrassing for me. I am behind the camera, I'm editing the footage, I'm in front of the camera on some parts. It's awful, it's not good. But there is value to be gained from looking at your old work, and hopefully there will be value that some of you out there can gain from it. If some of you are perhaps considering getting into film, perhaps you're looking at making your first short film, this might be a good way to see what to avoid and what not to do. But yeah, it was all for a bit of fun. It was filmed on like an old standard definition Handycam. I think we filmed it back in like late 2010, which is 10 years ago. I was very young. I was just filming it with all my friends at my mum's house. Every single scene is in my mum's house. Obviously, we were living there at the time. And my friends just came around a few nights after school and we just filmed something daft because we could. I wasn't looking at film as a career back then. We were just doing it because we were filming like random funny skits and stuff just to make each other laugh. And then we decided to, hey, why not try and make a short little action comedy? Because that was the sort of thing that we kind of found most amusing back then. So that's what we did. And yeah, one thing led to another and now I'm here. So let's get into it. Let's take a look. This was the name of my old company, which wasn't a company. That's all of us. Still good friends with all these guys. Obviously my brother's there too. He's alright. Mr. Storm. Yeah, someone said I was going to go on a set visit with a BBC director and his wife was basically going to be my chaperone and we were in talks over email and her and her production assistant ended up watching this somehow. I can't remember why. And they said, very kindly, they were being very nice to me. They said that it looked like I'd been inspired by Tarantino with the titles at the start there. And I think it's non-linear as well. So they were saying it was very Tarantino-esque. I hadn't even heard of Tarantino back then. I didn't know who he was. So it was actually those comments about this film that made me watch and become a big fan of Quentin Tarantino's work. It's the Mean People's HQ. So yeah, right away you can see what we're in for. That was Ryan there on the left. A fantastic German bad guy accent with his gun with the orange tips. Didn't bother spray painting those black because why bother with immersion, hey? This is my mum's garage. That's Sam there on the right standing up and then Jamie in the middle playing Mr. Storm.
Okay, here's how this will work. We ask you the questions and you answer them truthfully.
I had a tripod. You saw it in the previous shot. There's a tripod that the camera that this is now the perspective of is supposed to be sat on. And this is supposed to be obviously the POV from that camera. And I didn't put it on the tripod. This is a handheld shot. I don't know why I did that. I don't understand. You can see there's a lot of kind of like weird visual glitches that happen throughout the film. I guess it's because the footage from the Handycam wasn't compatible with whatever editing software I was using or whatever I ended up delivering the file as. But that's something to bear in mind when you're doing any project. Look at the workflow ahead of time before you decide on what equipment's going to be used, if you can. Make sure that the footage that you're going to be shooting, the format is compatible with whatever you're going to be editing that footage with, and then that's compatible with whatever you're going to be delivering that through, whatever platform it needs to go on. It's important to know each step of the production process before you commit to any particular camera or any particular software, just in case some of it isn't as compatible as others. Most things these days are fairly compatible with all sorts of things, but yeah, obviously back then things were a little bit different.
If you do not, you will be executed on camera and it will be sent back to your comrades as a warning. Do you understand?
Ah, that really hurt, actually.
Sam, back then, he was doing drama at school. He wanted to be an actor. He's a chef now. Probably made the right call there, Sam. I can't talk.
We know you was the one who stole the bombs from our HQ, and we know they are keeping them hidden from us.
Tell us where they are!
Very hard for us all to keep straight faces for this whole thing. There were so many bloopers and outtakes, but that's kind of what it was all about. It was just about us having a laugh with one another and just doing something different other than playing games all day. You might notice the between each shots, it's not very smooth, if you like. It's like a kind of stop and starty, and there's a good reason for that. Well, not a good reason, but I didn't really understand the concept of editing or shooting coverage of a scene back then. So back then we would literally just film that one part of that one scene from that one angle and then move on to the next one. So this one shot here is like I only filmed this action from this take, from this angle, and then the next bit's obviously the next bit of the scene from a different angle. Didn't really understand the idea of doing a whole scene from multiple angles and then cutting it into like a full scene in the edit. So I thought we had to do like one angle at a time, which obviously is extremely inefficient and very choppy, which don't do that. Get your coverage. Just run the scene from multiple different angles if you can.
If we can't make talk, this drug of ours will. And trust me, the side effects, they ain't pretty.
So going back in time, that Tarantino storytelling. Jamie here playing Mr. Storm. He didn't want a speaking role, he didn't fancy any lines. So we just gave him a silent protagonist type character who basically just punches people. So he was quite happy. God, that doorbell still makes me want to go and answer the door right now. It's just ingrained in my brain.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. And a bullet to the brain. A bullet to the brain.
It's not very clear. The joke there is we all pull out swords and then drop them and pull out the guns instead. Joke, yes, I know. But yeah, it does highlight the importance of the need for good lighting because you can't see jack. There's nothing there. I think there is a light on the outside of the house as well that we could have switched on, but we didn't because who knows why. The cameraman changed multiple times throughout this whole thing just because we were trying to maximise who was on screen or who could be on screen. So yeah, the guy in the green mask is me, multi-rolling in this. The guy in front of me in the balaclava, that's my younger brother. Always giving me jip on set. I remember getting very frustrated with him, probably unfairly so. I remember at the time I was really into Jason Bourne stuff back then, and we wanted to put some of that into our fight scenes. And you'll see that in a sec. We're able to, like, trying to use the environment is kind of what we were going for. So, like, hitting people off things and, like, using items in the environment to take people out, which you'll kind of see an example of. Not that it was executed well, but that was why we did it. Being thrown in the bath hurt. And punched in the chest by Jamie and strangled. All of it was real, really. Like, Jamie just hit me and threw me around because that was the best way we could make it look convincing. Obviously, if you do make these sort of films, try not to punch your friends too much. This part here, he closes the door and then he puts on a hoodie. And the reason for this is, I think we shot the next scene at a different point, like a different evening, and we forgot what he was wearing somehow, and he left the hoodie on by mistake. And so after the fact, I guess we tried to correct the continuity error by just adding in him closing the door because it's closed in another shot after this, and then putting the hoodie on so it didn't seem weird. But then in fixing the continuity error, we just added like 30 seconds of him putting a hoodie on. So. Awfully long pause. You see kind of around here the 180 rule is being broken in abundance. If you're not familiar with what the 180 rule is, it's basically if I was having a conversation now with someone there, the camera's on my left, so I'm on the right of the frame, they're on the left of the frame. If then it was like a reverse shot of me and it was over their shoulder, then it would have to be on their right, they'd still be on the left of frame and I'd still be on the right of frame from that angle. If you went to the other side, so if you went over their other shoulder, I'd be on the other side of the frame. And it's basically just, it's quite jarring. It doesn't really give you a sense of the space. It doesn't help you kind of understand the geography of the location that you're in, and it can kind of take you out of the scene. It can be broken. It is a rule that can be broken once you understand how to use it correctly. You can break it in fight scenes, for instance, to create a kind of jarring, confusing atmosphere. It can kind of add to the chaos. But yeah, you have to understand the rule first before you can break it. And we definitely didn't know. I don't think I even knew the rule existed at this point back then. But something to bear in mind is the old 180 rule. Also the rule of thirds. Check those two out. Those are two very important rules that you should probably start off with and just try to keep to in your first few works, if you like. Before my brother's voice dropped. I'm sure he'll be delighted that I'm reviewing this. Thought we were very clever there. We moved the balaclava across so that the eyepiece was on his cheek, and so when he got sprayed it was just hitting the fabric. It's not that clever, but we thought it was. There's a lot of examples of us thinking random is funny in this, which to us back then it was. You see that punch there, we kind of cut exactly where the punch would have hit. We'd use this quite a lot in some of the films that we did later on where they were a bit more action oriented, because we kind of figured out that most of our punches don't look very convincing, so cutting on the point where the hit would be kind of helps sell it a little bit more. Nothing's going to sell that kick there. I'm hiding whatever that was. Obviously they wouldn't have seen that. No possible way they could have seen that. That horrible slow-mo sound effects. Something to bear in mind if you're thinking of including slow motion in your film at any point. Remember you need slow-mo sound as well as slow-mo visuals. Most sound effects that you use, if you download them off the internet, don't sound good when you slow them down like you might with the footage. So just bear that in mind. You need to find some slow motion quality sound before you look at filming anything in slow motion. So he's setting an alarm off, like an emergency beacon. This is his boss, Mr. Storm's boss. We were all very much into our rock and metal back then. But yeah, we blacked out the two sides of the shot because we were using the same bathroom as the one that my thug character got killed in when he got strangled in the bath. There were two other bathrooms in the house that could have been used. I don't know why we didn't. It baffles me. Young me was stupid.
Thanks, Storm.
This is the most painful scene for me. You can probably already tell why. You may recognise the guy on the left of frame. This is Mr. Storm's colleagues, if you like, his fellow agents. We're about to go and help him. This, as you can see, is back in the days of the peak Xbox 360 days, good times. That's my old phone. I missed that thing. That's an example of a joke just utterly falling flat. Basically, he's throwing lots of guns and knives and things at the phone because hilarity. Matt, my friend who was playing the character, also looked at the camera a lot during the shot, and I didn't want to use it. So I thought a better idea would be to cut to this pretend legal policy thing. I don't really know how to explain it. Why is there a bear in the background? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. At some point in my life, I thought this was funny. Yeah, just remember that just because you find something funny doesn't mean everyone else will. Now here's a pretty classic example of bad lighting. Obviously we didn't have any lights on set, and many of you may not as well. If you're just starting out, you might just have a camera. So something to bear in mind, especially if you're working with a camera that has kind of an auto exposure, where it kind of adjusts for whatever is the lightest thing in the frame. Don't film your subjects with a window behind them when it's daylight, because you get this. Everything will appear in silhouette. The only thing that will be lit correctly, if you like, is the outside, and everything inside is going to be dark. So just try and avoid shooting directly in front of windows if you don't have the means to light something correctly.
It's the boss. I thought today was that day of killing the bad guys. You can answer that. Right.
It's also an example of having to make sure your sound level is good. Obviously, we didn't have a boom mic. The mic is just what was on the Handycam, and we have lots of other background sounds going on. So just remember to tweak those levels until everything is as audible as it needs to be. There, it was kind of prioritizing the phone ringing sound and the gunshots of the game that's still going on in the background over the voices of what the characters are saying.
Wait. Just answer it.
Now the recordings on the phone, we didn't know how to dub things back then. So rather than in post put the lines in, we just had Joe, the guy who played the boss on Sat on the Toilet, we had him speak the lines into the phone, record them on the phone itself, and I was just playing them in my ear out loud. So I'm actually just playing them on loudspeaker in my ear just there. Hurt quite a bit. But we didn't know how else to time my kind of reactions and my lines with the other lines in any other way back then, so we just did it all sort of in camera, which was an extremely inefficient way of doing it, but there you go.
Yes,
Almost problem solved.
Yeah, this is Agent Mills. Agent Jackson is here with me. Sir!
Oh my god, you oops!
What is it?
That high-pitched voice in the background it's also me. Somehow I'd figured out how to dub by that point. But yeah, basically pretending to be someone on Xbox Live getting angry that we weren't playing, and it's supposed to be funny. It's more distracting.
That you want from us on a fine day off that we're meant to be having?
I'm sorry, I know I said you could have a break, but this
The subtitles are intentionally terrible. Again, another hilarious joke.
I'm dead now. Because you suck.
Huh?
Never mind, sir.
Anyway, Agent Storm has been captured by a terrorist group we attacked last month. He just turned on his emergency beacon.
You camping or something? You can't camp where you just
Do we know where he is?
Again, breaking the 180 there. I've been in front the whole time. I've been on obviously left, Matt's been on the right, and now we've just come completely behind me, which obviously we were just running out of different angles to film. I think we changed shot for every new voice clip on the phone because we couldn't get it to work time-wise otherwise, so we'd just do one voice clip, stop the camera, move the camera, start again, next voice clip, stop the camera, move. Extremely efficient, as I say. But yeah, you start to run out of angles pretty quick, and rather than reusing angles, we decided to come up with new ones that broke all the rules under the sun. Better lit though.
Before tonight, providing you had a tracker on it somewhere.
No, Stormy does.
Me going for my Oscar-winning performance.
Extremely short notice. Remember, we don't leave agents behind, especially when they're in enemy hands. Well, I guess they'd always be in enemy hands. Well, unless they're waiting in a shopping queue.
I don't understand that joke. I wrote the joke. It's my joke. I don't get it. I'm not sure what I was going for. Let's move on.
Make it a picture.
Yes, sir. Me and Jackson are on it.
Boom. Over. You didn't do anything for the entire
Oh well. Oh, we just lost the game as well.
So I think it was actually quite difficult for us to maintain continuity in a lot of this because all of these things, I think we shot them all on different evenings, probably in order of where they appear in the film, because again, didn't really understand editing and how to block out filming sequences and what would be the most efficient way to shoot something back then. Like, it would have made sense to shoot everything in the garage on one night. Pretty sure we didn't. I don't know if everyone was available on the same night. Either way, just bear that in mind. It's always easier to shoot everything in the same location on the same day, if possible. If you can get everyone there that needs to be there, rather than having to come back to that location and make sure it all looks exactly the way it did before, because odds are, if it's early on, there's only a few of you working on just a small budget thing, you'll probably miss something, so just bear that in mind.
Every weapons now!
Chaos. Why my mum put up with this, I don't know. You can see us all trying not to laugh. But I mean, that was kind of what it was all about, really. We were just having fun. We weren't taking it too seriously. Yeah, you can kind of see us all trying not to break.
Let's just say what we're trying to say calmly. All right, Jackson, you go first.
Why does he get to go first?
Shut it.
Jackson, just saying.
Just messing up our lines and not doing retakes, just clearly stuttering over certain things, and we didn't care.
If you don't freeze, I'll shoot you in the face.
Good. Now, all I was trying to say was drop your weapons down, please. Okay? All right. Now, your turn.
Bag of one openings of fire.
All right. Now, you.
Alright, forget this. Just kill him. Give him the lethal dose.
He's going to kill him by giving him the injection rather than just shooting him, which, I mean, I guess it's just bad guy logic. I mean, that's not unique to our film, but still. My first ever muzzle flash. I didn't do another one for a very long time. I remember watching tutorials for ages just trying to figure out how to get it to work in whatever program I was using back then. Yeah, I was proud of that back in the day. This hit here from Sam. I don't think I even sped that up. Just such a graceful reaction as he flies across into the door. Should have been a stuntman, Sam. You wasted it, chef.
Tell my wife I love her. Tell my wife I love her.
Changing accents there for no reason.
We're both dying.
Such an epic finale.
Damn it, Storm. How'd you get into these messes?
That was Jamie actually punching me again. That really hurts, you dick. You can see all of our repeat roles there, all the different people that were behind the camera. Obviously, we didn't credit things properly. I thanked like all the different tracks and sound effects I used, all the royalty-free stuff. Most of it sounding pretty terrible, but if you do need some free stuff and you're not taking it too seriously like we were, feel free to use some of these. I think I still use free SFX sometimes. They're pretty good. They've got quite a lot on there. Was it freesound.org? Check out both of those. They might change their name. Thanking our viewers as well. so young and innocent and naive. So that's it. Yeah, that was my first ever film that I produced in its entirety, if you like. We tried a lot of other projects back then. We did lots of random videos and stuff. That was the first thing that we kind of called a short film, if you like. Do I regret doing it? Absolutely not. It's terrible. It's embarrassing. It's painful to look at. But I don't regret it. I learned so much from this experience and the experiences that came after this as well. We made loads of it. If you look at the channel that this came from, I'll put a link in the description if you're that brave. I don't necessarily recommend taking a look, but we made so many of these shorts throughout the various years at school. And if I hadn't done that, I honestly wouldn't be doing film now. And, all the mistakes and errors that we made back then were all lessons that I learned and took with me when going to university and then on through into my actual career. Much better, to make all the mistakes here in kind of a safe environment, if you like, with your friends, where it doesn't really matter. You can just experiment and have a laugh with it and figure things out as you go, rather than trying to jump straight in headfirst into a more professional situation and not really having a clue where you are, what you're doing, having any prior experience whatsoever. I mean, obviously this isn't like professional experience to have, but it's still experience in some form. You're still having to figure out shots. You have to organize things. You have to work out logistics, props, doing the editing as well, delivering the file at the end of the day. It's all stuff that, whilst in a very simple form here in a very informal setting, is all very applicable to a professional setting once you obviously work out some of the kinks. If you are looking at doing film in the near future, if you're looking at making your first short film, just do it. Don't worry about whether people are going to see it. Don't worry about what people are going to think. Don't worry about if it's going to be any good. Just go out there and make stuff, because that is the only way you can learn. You have to learn by doing. It's the best way when it comes down to film. You can watch as many film essays as you like, and they will teach you tips and tricks and obviously give you a heads up on certain things like this video might have. But the best way you can learn is by just getting out there and do it. Just get a few friends together and film something with your phone if you don't have a camera. I mean, your phone, I guarantee you, if you've got a smartphone, it's going to be higher quality than the camera I was using back then. So you've always got an edge over younger me. Your stuff will already look 10 times better. The mic will be better. The lighting will be better. It'll be in HD. So there's no reason now not to go out there and start filming stuff. As I say, this only ever got like 800 views. It's been up for 9 years. The point is, we enjoyed doing it. We learned from our mistakes, and it's helped me to grow as a young filmmaker. If I hadn't done that film and had the positive response from friends at the time, it might not have encouraged me to make more daft films back then. And then those films then led on to me deciding to do film at university, and then that obviously led on to doing film related things as part of my career. So it's a big snowball, and you have to start somewhere, and this is where I started. You may start in a fairly similar place. You can't start your journey if you don't go out there and shoot something. So yes, those are the lessons for today. Go out there, make some new stuff, have fun, and enjoy yourself. And we'll see you again in the next one.